In 2017, my husband Tim invited me and our 2 grown kids on a hike in the Wind River Range in Wyoming. The idea was to celebrate his 60th birthday by being together in the wilderness for the total solar eclipse that was due to cross the U.S. on August 21st. It would be my first wilderness hike at the age of 56, and I didn't exactly feel up to the challenge, especially compared to my very capable husband and children. But what was I going to do? Miss it? The trip brought its highs and lows. That's another story. But experiencing the eclipse with my family made it all worthwhile. Even so, when we finished the hike, I had no desire to do another. A year passed, during which I wrote about and made paintings of our hike. The more I processed the hard parts of the hike, the more I felt called to try again. I asked Tim if he would lead me and a few friends on a route that would follow the Green River all the way to its source. Without hesitation, he agreed to take us to the winds that following August, 2019. The women I invited were friends of over 20 years, gals I regularly hiked with around the Camden Hills in Maine where we live, educators whose appreciation of the natural world mirrored my own. We entered at the Green River Lakes trailhead, the same launching point we took for our eclipse hike. Our plan was to follow the Green River to its source, a basin east of Peak Lake, about 20 miles into the range. I had asked Tim to craft a route that allowed for breaks, to observe a scene, to take a rest, or to photograph or write. Tim obliged by laying down a 50-mile loop spread over 8 days that factored in a couple of half-day stops for day hikes or rest. We started in mid-afternoon under fair skies and along green grass, still moist from rains so recent the puddles had yet to soak into the trail. Pockets of fireweed, lupin, cow parsley, sago lily, and dozens of other wildflowers sprung like fairies in the soft shade of the rocks and pines. That first day was like walking into Oz as we followed the Green River Lakes, then the river itself, toward Square Top Mountain, the unmistakable landmark that beckoned us forward. The water, made emerald from glacial sediment that filters down from its source high in the range, whispered an ancient, otherworldly language that both soothed and excited me. We walked for 6 miles, stopping near dusk to make camp. No sooner had we laid down our packs, the prerequisite 200 feet from the river, than the mosquitoes descended, chasing us from the river to a somewhat less infested spot on the other side of the trail. I had learned from the last hike that sleep does not come easily to me on the trail, whether from altitude, or tight quarters, or thoughts of the coming days. This time I was prepared with a Benadryl for each night, which I was told would encourage a better sleep. Sure enough, I only rose once in the night, compared with the 1 hour of sleep I had had on our first night last time around. I was off to a good start. I woke at 6:30 to Tim's whisper outside our tent. He had risen in order to make a time-lapse of the morning light and had discovered 2 bull moose grazing alongside the river. We quickly roused the others to join us. When the moose noticed us, they broke into a gallop, then crossed the river, the smaller one kicking his legs in the air and splashing water as if in play. Next came armies of mosquitoes. Like a band of misfits, we suited up with netting and long sleeves for protection. Volunteering to be the leader that day, I strapped on a can of bear spray and started off, setting my pace to the song, "By the Rivers of Babylon," its rhythm syncing with the gurgling, rippling water by our side. My inner soundtrack paused for only 3 reasons: to admire a flower, to stop for a snack, or to cross a stream, all which we did on a regular basis. The air was hot, and we were glad for the occasional shade offered by clusters of lodgepole pine. Elfie, who grew up in Colorado, told us how much she loved the smell of them. I asked her what they smelled like, and she said, "Vanilla." This led to a lot of tree sniffing until we decided that the sap smelled both of vanilla and resin, and was decidedly more sweet than pungent. Throughout the day, when a warm waft of air blew the lodgepole branches, it carried with it that sweetly resonant scent. Our 8-mile hike that day ended with a 1,000-foot elevation gain and one last stream crossing in late afternoon. A short while later, we arrived at our home for the night, a pleasant grassy glade encircled by evergreens, not far from a rushing stream. The next morning, our 3rd day, we pulled on our trail runners, still damp from the previous day's stream crossing. After breakfast and chores, we broke camp and headed out. The trail led us up a gradual incline through a forest dotted with pines and wildflowers. We stopped frequently to snack, hydrate, and take in the views, which opened dramatically once we hit 10,000 feet. I felt like a long-distance runner, cheered on by the floral bystanders, dressed in garments of scarlet, azure, lemon, and cloud. At our lunch stop, Tim shared tips for what he thought would be the biggest challenge of our entire trip: climbing Cube Rock Pass. "There's not much of a trail once we reach the talus field," he said, "so you'll be scrambling up boulders instead. I suggest using your hands rather than your poles, since they will give you more control. When we get higher, I expect there will be some snow, but nothing we Mainers can't handle. Take your time." Partway up, I put away my poles and relied on all 4 limbs for stability and balance. I moved steadily, adrenaline resurrecting the scrappy, tree-climbing kid I once was. And those rocks, geometric striations, speckles of black, gray, white, chartreuse, and tan, all in mesmerizing variation, and offset by patches of flowers tucked here and there along the way. Tim kept watch on the isolated clouds that gathered as we climbed, their thunder rumbling in the distance. A light rain began, dabbing our cheeks and fingers with refreshing moisture. As we neared the crest of the pass, Tim didn't want to take any chances, so we found cover under large boulders while we waited for the storm to pass. Still pumped with energy, I found this thrilling at first. But as 5 minutes turned to 20, my warmth and confidence drained like a tire with a slow leak. As we started out again, I felt tentative and shaky, and when we reached the first snowfield, I had to summon my strength. As Tim had instructed, though, I took my time and was grateful for its short length. After we crested the pass, I layered up and snacked, but still couldn't shake the weakness or chill. Thankfully, the rest of the hike was a gradual downhill toward Peak Lake. We found a campsite nestled between rocks and dwarf conifers near the lake. I slid off my pack and collapsed to the ground, unable to muster the energy to move. Elfie brought me a vitamin C drink and covered me with her down jacket before heading off to explore. I fell into a dazed sleep, aware only of a steady chirping above my head. Eventually, I translated the song to "Chin up, cheer up," advice that lifted me back to my feet to join the others in their exploration. By dusk, new storm clouds gathered, and a sudden wind rose, bringing thunder and lightning once again. Tim and I made dinner in our wind-sheltered vestibule, and I delivered it to the others in between rain showers to be eaten in their tents. We fell asleep by 8 p.m. to the heavy pattering of rain. Day 4. We woke early, grateful for a clear sky. The air was crisp, but not as cold or as buggy as it had been in the Green River Valley. This was our day to experience the midpoint of our journey, the basin at the source of the Green River. Tim had planned a free morning for this, with only a mile to travel each way, carrying lightweight day packs. Esperanza chose to explore the area near camp on her own. We made our way along the lake, then meandered through alpine meadows that led gradually up the basin. Water streamed down the hillside and along the trail. Sometimes just underneath the grass, and sometimes hidden well below the ground. Low shrubs and wildflowers sprayed the hillsides with flourishes of bright color, and the smell of sky pilot, remarkably like cannabis, filled the air wherever it bloomed. By late morning, we reluctantly turned back. Spilling with happiness, I turned to Tim to tearfully thank him for being our guide. The color of the lake as we approached at high noon, a combination of turquoise, aqua, and teal, completed my conversion as a worshipper of that high holy place. We returned to find Esperanza beaming from her quiet, meditative morning. We shared lunch, broke camp, and headed up the not-so-intimidating Shannon Pass, stealing glances back at the lake at every opportunity. The elevation gain was roughly 600 feet on a well-maintained trail flanked by talus. Halfway up the pass, we came upon an oasis that stopped us in our tracks. Amidst a mountainside of gray granite, there was a small garden of primrose and moss, a microclimate created by the shade and the streams that trickled through the rocks. Once over the pass, we traveled along a high plateau populated by a magnificent assortment of glacial erratics. One spot in particular emanated an ancient, sacred stillness, and I wondered if it had once been a ceremonial gathering place for the natives of this land. We felt strong that afternoon and hiked until the sun started to set, making camp near a pond in a grove of pine perched high over a valley. After dinner, I found a prime spot to witness another canvas made perfect by nature's hand. Morning brought a lovely stillness and peace. Two of us felt low in energy, so we decided to take the morning to putter and play. We jumped in the lake, did laundry, stretched, and took our time exploring. We left at noon, and the trail was good to us. We focused on staying hydrated, which kept up our energy as we made our way to the crossroads near Summit Lake, a fine stopping place for lunch and bird watching. We made steady progress all afternoon on fairly level trails along an alpine plateau. We stopped at 5 o'clock at a convergence of lake and stream, making camp in a dell near the water, with no wind to either bother us or quell the squads of mosquitoes that lived there. Our 6th day brought fair skies once again. We hiked all morning through a wide subalpine meadow flanked by granite mountains and populated by a profusion of wildflowers. By late morning, the trail began its descent, and we were soon snaking down a series of switchbacks through the forest, harder on the legs than the lungs. The rushing, frigid river quieted our crying hot feet during lunch. After our rest and refuel, we started up the other side of the canyon. Those of us with cranky downhill knees were ready for the change of slope. Clouds thickened as we climbed, so we decided to stop when Tim spotted a good campsite in the waning afternoon. We set up a tarp and tents on a bluff overlooking a canyon that narrowed on one side where the stream rushed far below. No sooner had we made camp than the rain came. We scurried to our tents and spent the next 2 hours reading and journaling, a lovely leisure time after the long uphill climb. We ate under the tarp, and shortly after dinner, Elfie noticed a swath of sunlight washing over the distant mountains. I joked that there would soon be a rainbow. 2 minutes later, I turned my head, and there it was, a perfect double rainbow, embracing the canyon and us with its light. We woke early to mostly clear skies, still feeling those rainbow highs. We made good time on the 2-mile uphill climb that began in a dense grove and led to a series of pocket meadows. Clouds can accumulate quickly at such high elevations, and Tim kept us moving as he watched the skies darken, hoping to get us over the pass and safer from the danger of lightning. After a quick round of high fives at the height of the pass, he pointed us to the downward slope. A snaking trail on the steep, exposed mountainside. The clouds thickened after our descent. Knowing that rain was imminent, we found a cluster of trees to shelter us during our lunch break. We discovered old claw marks on one tree, which was the closest we ever got to a bear sighting on the hike. We pulled on our rain gear and set off just as the drops began. What started as a gentle drizzle grew into a steady rain that proved the worthiness of our rain gear, soaking only our hands and feet. Distracted by the sculptural forms of boulders, mosses, dead trees, and the discovery of new wildflower species, we pressed on for over an hour. By 4 o'clock, I was growing cold and asked if we could make camp soon. Tim instructed us to be on the lookout for a campsite, but none came. We stopped to snack in a clump of evergreens, and I positioned myself under the thickest branches for protection from the dripping cold rain. Tim set off ahead to search for a campsite, while ever-cheerful Elfie taught us the reggae version of the Rivers of Babylon. Tim returned unsuccessful, so we had no choice but to press on. We went for another 45 minutes in steady rain, then crossed a wide stream that soaked our feet to the bone in frigid water. We finally came to a campsite, but it was already occupied. Running on fumes, I gave Tim a pleading look, and he approached the group, who were gracious about letting us share. He quickly set up our tent and instructed me to climb out of my wet clothes and into my dry sleeping bag, which over the next 30 minutes warmed me back to a normal temperature. The rain let up by 7, so we gathered under our tarp for dinner, watching the clouds as they broke up, feeling the air grow raw. By now I had convinced all of the women to take a Benadryl for better rest, and that night we all slept soundly. I woke slowly on our 8th and final morning. I felt rested, but my lower back was sore, and I was beginning to long for the comforts of home, especially fresh vegetables and hot water. This hike was the perfect length, I told Tim, thanking him again for all of his planning. We hung our wet socks in the cold, sunny air and collected our own dose of sun, too. By 10:30, we were on the trail, which led us through the woods, alongside bursting streams that raced downhill toward the Green River Lakes. After its initial descent, the trail leveled off, and we traveled comfortably, the sweet, piney wafts of lodgepole brushing past our cheeks, the emerald lake glistening in the afternoon sun. We shared our last lunch, already feeling the sweet tugs of nostalgia. As if manifesting our gratitude, a series of checkered skippers fluttered among the aspen daisies that clustered in sunny patches along the trail. At the edge of the woods, near the very end of our hike, a friendly sparrow sat sentinel in the branches of a pine, as if to bid us good day and good hike.